Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I am the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I actually took some time off from doing episodes. I did a little 7-day free coaching online, and then we took on some clients, and I just didn't want to get too overwhelmed and too involved. However, I've had a lot of issues come up that I really should have been doing a podcast about. So I'm glad and happy to be back to it, and I'm happy that you're joining me today. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, you should go ahead and do that to make sure you never miss an episode. So if you got this via a standard, podcasting app and you're familiar with podcasting or whatever, wherever you're getting your podcast from, you can subscribe there. For most people, it's Apple Podcasts, formerly called iTunes. I'd ask a favor, if you did subscribe or you do get us through Apple Podcasts and you've enjoyed it and it's helped you, and I know it has a lot. I can't tell you how many messages I've got of people that have listened to the podcast and have started keto and lost weight and improved their health conditions. It would mean the world to me if you would go rate our podcast. That helps people find us. Apple won't share the podcast. If your podcast never gets a rating or a review, they don't share it. So I want as many people in the world to know about keto and my journey and how they can literally change their life. So you can help me help people by doing that. So take a second and go give us a rating. 5-star rating would be great. And if you would also, in addition to leave the rating, leave a review about, how the podcast has helped you in some way. So enough begging. So if you don't know a lot about it and you're streaming this from a website or you're streaming it from my Facebook page or however you found it, and you don't know a lot about podcasting, here's the easiest way to do it is go download a free app on your device. No matter what kind of device you have, you can go download the free Spreaker app, Spreaker, Spreaker. Go download that app. Once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast. Once you get to that, you'll hit the heart button, favorite us, follow us, and all that stuff, and you'll get notifications about new episodes. But the cool thing is you can scroll back and see all the older episodes and get caught up. And my last favor to ask you is if you did find this, on a Facebook post or something, hit the share button, and you never know whose life you'll impact by sharing this on your Facebook page or on your Twitter or whatever. That's the way I found keto, and it was probably the way you found me, and it's pay it forward. Look, if you want good things to come to you, you got to pay good things forward. So hit that share button. Share us with your connections on social media. And that's my last point is social media. We're on all of them. Fat Guy Podcast is the username, even Snapchat. So no matter which one you prefer, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever, add us. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. I'm not a doctor. Nothing I give is intended to be medical advice, and nothing I give is specific dietary or exercise advice for you. This is stuff strictly based on my experiences and my experiences alone. I share my experience and my journey and things that I've learned that work for me in hopes that it may inspire you, but you should always consult with a doctor. Do your research and all that stuff before you begin any kind of a program, whether it be exercise, weight loss, diet, or anything like that. So weight stalls. Just a lot of people contact me about weight loss stalls. I lost some weight and then it stalled. And people freak out. And I've addressed this before in the past to some degree, but I wanted to address it again. I want to do an entire podcast just on weight loss stalls. And let's discuss them. So I'm going to be speaking about stalled weight loss in general terms. And then I'll be speaking about stalled weight loss in keto specific terms. Because no matter how you're trying to lose weight, you can hit a stall. So let's say you just happen to be listening to my podcast because you saw the title and your weight loss is stalled. And you're not doing keto. But, the title, met what your situation you're going through. So you decided to give it a listen. So I don't want to leave you out. And that's who I'll start with. So if you are a keto person, hang in there. We'll get to keto specifically in just a second. But in general, I find when people are doing a caloric restriction type diet, you're restricting the amount of food you eat, and you don't have a formulated plan that's designed to hack your metabolism, designed to hack your physiology like a keto diet is. So basically, you're just going with restrictions, general overall restrictions. And this could be anything from Weight Watchers to just, I logged into MyFitnessPal and gave it, my weight and told it I wanted to lose 2 pounds of weight, and it told me to eat this many calories. Any of those approaches I'm addressing now. So what you'll find generally happens when your weight loss stalls is one of a few things. And I'm going to talk about the ones that are specific to these types approaches to losing weight. So generally what will happen is you'll cut your calories back and you'll lose some weight, right? And it'll work for a little while. It may work for a few weeks, may work for a few months. It just depends on the person. And then you'll find that you stalled. So for most people that take that approach to weight loss, the reason it's stalled is because you have dropped your calories to a point that you are now back at equilibrium. You are eating the amount of calories to sustain the weight that you're at, generally speaking. So while initially you were over enough that the few calories you cut back caused weight loss, now it isn't anymore. And trust me, I'm very leery to say that because I don't want you to stop listening to this podcast right now and just decide you need to cut back on even more calories, because that's not the answer. Calorie restriction only works temporarily anyway. So even if you do go cut your calories back even more, you're only going to be hurting yourself. So don't go do that. I just want to tell you that is one thing that happens. But please don't go cut your calories back further. That's not the answer. If you do that, you may reactivate weight loss again until you hit another stall and you'd need to reduce calories again. But I'm going to tell you what's happening is your metabolism will continue to drop. So the less calories you eat, your body is going to figure out ways. It's going to start turning things off or slowing things down. And that's what a lowered metabolism is. So if you've taken it down to 1,400 calories, it's going to start lowering this process or slowing this process down, or maybe even shutting this process off to where it can work at 1,400 calories. Your body is very smart. Your body is designed to get itself through times when it isn't being sustained enough. Now, that's a big difference between just calorie restriction and a ketogenic diet, because if you're carrying fat and you're on a ketogenic diet, your body doesn't have to shut your metabolism down because it will readily access the fat stores on your body with no problem. And in fact, it will prefer that. And so it'll never feel like it's starving. And that's one of the big differences between keto and just restricting calories. And anybody that tells you that weight loss is just about calories in, calories out is wrong. They're completely wrong. So I just want to clear that up. Now I'll move to something that fits everybody, no matter what kind of diet you may be doing. But hopefully what I just told you will pique your interest about the keto diet if you're doing something different. And we'll get to that in a second. But your body hits set points. If you've stalled after losing your first 5 pounds or whatever, you probably haven't hit a set point where your body wants to hang out for a while. But, if you've lost something like 15 or 20 pounds, maybe, your body could very easily freak out and go, look, I have to hold on to some fat for a while. Fat is there to get me through lean times, and I'm not sure what's going on. So we're just going to shut the metabolism down a little bit. We're going to burn the excess fat for a while and see what's up. Now, this is much less likely to happen on a ketogenic diet than it is on a restriction-only diet, because your body will feel like it has plenty of food at all times. But it can still happen on a ketogenic diet, just depending. So keep that in mind. So let's look at it in terms of now strictly for people who are on a ketogenic diet, which I suspect is most people that are listening. You're either interested in keto or you're on it because you followed me or something. These set points will happen, and that's probably what it's going to be if you are being pure with your ketogenic diet. So in that instance, I would say this: if you are eating a ample amount of fat, a ratio of fat that's fine, which needs to be in the 65% plus range, in the 65 to 75% range. So when you log your food in MyFitnessPal and you go look at the macros, it says you're in the 65 to 75% fat. Then you should be satiated. You shouldn't be overeating. That doesn't mean you can't overeat, but generally people that just follow that rule don't overeat. You really should know your specific macros and hit them, and that way it's not a question of whether did I overeat today or not. Nevertheless, that's a podcast for a different time, and I'm not going to get into that now. But so let's say you're doing everything right, okay? And you're doing everything right. You're not, way over binging, and your fat isn't too low, which is allowing you to overeat. Because fat is the hunger signal. That's how we regulate hunger on a ketogenic diet. The higher your fat is, the less hungry you'll be. It's just really hard to overeat fat. Like I told somebody the other day, if you don't think it's hard to overeat on fat, go grab you a stick of butter and eat it and tell me how easy that is. The body will very quickly let you know that it's consumed enough. And this isn't true for carbohydrates. It is for protein to a certain degree, but it's definitely not true for carbs. That's why carbs are so easy to overeat. You can just stuff carbs in your body all day long and it'll never tell you that you're full. So, you got a pretty pure ketogenic way of eating that you're faithful to, and you've had a stall, then it is most likely a set point stall. Okay, you've ruled out everything else, and I'll talk about in just a second the things that you may need to rule out if this is not the case. So, that this is the case, and you've probably hit a set point. What you can do? Well, option one is wait it out. Wait a week, wait 2 weeks, wait 3 weeks, or whatever. Option two is to kick your metabolism back into a active state where it's happy getting out of the stall. It's happy moving on from the set point. There's two ways to do that. The first way is the one most people choose because they think it's easier. The second way I think is more effective. The first way is to have a binge weekend or something, a day or day and a half. So I'm talking about lunch one day, dinner one day, lunch the next day would be day and a half. I wouldn't go the full 2 days, or you could just try it for a day. So what you'll do on that day is, I'd say pick a day and make it count, but you're just going to binge out. Now, you're still going to keep your carbs at 20 or less. You're not going to go over that, but you will overeat. You'll overeat by about 25% or 30% of what you normally eat. Okay, so you're just going to stuff yourself. You still want your fat ratio to be in the 65 to 75% range. You're still going to want your carbs to be 20 or less, but you're just going to overeat in a ketogenic way. You're just going to overeat, okay? So what would that look like? Well, I'd say for most people, you just add you another steak dinner on top of what you normally eat. Eat you another big ribeye steak with some steamed broccoli dipped in melted butter, and and enjoy that. And so you've overeaten that day. And then the next day, add about 50% more to your lunch meal or whatever. And then you're done with it. And see what happens over the course of the next week to 2 weeks. That will often kick your body off of a stall. The second way is much more effective and harder to do, and that's a fast. And so I would say it needs at least needs to be a 3-day fast, but you could try 2. And so that's water and electrolytes only. So that's water with salt in it. So you're going to make you some salt water, or if you have sodium tablets, you want to get you several grams a day, 4 to 6 grams a day of sodium. And you can either, if you have tablets, you can take them, or you can mix it in salt water. You don't want to do a 4 to 6 grams of sodium in a glass of water at one time. You want to drink you like a quart of water, and it has a couple of grams of sodium in it, okay? It's like a tablespoon or something. And then you can do it again later in the day around the evening time, a full quart of water. So you want it to be diluted. Otherwise, it will cause all kind of digestive issues. But a 3-day water fast with just some salt in there for electrolytes. people tell you that, we've seen it in the movies, man, where people haven't eaten in 2 or 3 days and they're starving, or 4 days and they're starving and they're running around like rabid animals. That's not what actually happens. Your metabolism actually goes to a higher state, and your hunger goes to a lower state after about the 3rd day. So, yeah, the first day is kind of hard. Second day is a little bit hard. Third day is probably the ending of the worst part of it. If you were to make it into day 4, which I'm not recommending, but day 4 is generally really easy, and day 5, it's like, you're like, why do I even eat food? I don't need it. I'd just say get through about 3 days. Your metabolism is going to go higher. So the longer you go without eating, the higher your metabolism gets. I know that seems counterintuitive. It's very weird, because you would think, well, hell, if I undereat, I don't eat enough, and my calories get too low every day, and my body feels like it's starving, it starts cutting my metabolism back. If I'm not eating anything, imagine what it does. Well, that's just not true. Your metabolism will actually elevate. Your body processes, especially your brain, because your brain burns most of your energy. Most people don't know this. The highest consumption of energy in your body is your brain. And when you're not eating anything, your body wants your brain to be at its most heightened state of acuity, because it feels like we're programmed to be able to hunt, forage, or whatever. And it thinks that you just haven't located anything yet. So it wants to make you where you'll be even better at hunting and foraging. It wants you to be really sharp. And so your metabolism will actually go up. Your mental acuity will go up. Your clearness of mind will go up. A lot of great things happen in a fasted state. Nevertheless, that's neither here nor there. Then after that 3 days, I would say on your 4th day, you want to eat about 25% more than your normal again. So you want to have a kind of a binge keto day, the first day back eating, and then go to normal. And that, for most people, that will kick you out of your stall, and you'll be back on your way again. So the last thing I want to address is when we're examining our ketogenic diet, to make sure that it's just a programmed body stall, the body doing its thing, and it's not something we're doing. What things do we need to look at? Well, obviously make sure you're not having hidden carbs. Make sure you haven't started eating things that claims on the label it's low carbs, some kind of processed crap that tells you it has 4 net carbs or 3 net carbs, because you can't know about that. You can net carb out vegetables and stuff, and that's fine. But if you've started eating some, like Quest bars, I'll occasionally eat a Quest bar, and they're 4 net carbs. But I'm going to tell you something. If I eat Quest bars very often, my weight loss will halt. So it's not like you can never eat a Quest bar, but you can't eat them often. They are, look, it's not like eating a Snickers or a Milky Way. Don't get me wrong. You can enjoy them as a treat. But, it's like a once a week thing or something, maybe twice a week thing or something. And that's going to apply to everything else I'm going to list. Coke Zero. Coke Zero is the devil. Me and my friend Jamie talk about this from time to time. A few things happen when you drink a Coke Zero. One, your cravings will go through the roof. I can have one Coke Zero, and I'll go into carb craving insanity for 2 or 3 days. Does that mean I never have them? No, I have them, and I have them with a meal, so that way, because even though there's no sugar in there, Coke Zero will spike your insulin. Your body thinks it's sweet. It feels like sugar, tastes like sugar, has a sensation of sugar. Your body thinks sugar is coming. It's rushing insulin out to deal with it. So you'll get a little insulin spike. So if I have a Coke Zero, I have it with a meal, because I'm going to get an insulin spike from the meal anyway. So I just get it all at one time and get it over with. But, if you're having, if you've devolved now to where you're having a Coke Zero every day, that's what stalled you, 100%. If you've gotten to where you're having these water enhancers, that are sweetened with sucralose. So there's, it's an artificial sweetener. It's no sugar. I got into this too. And weight loss just stopped. Carbs were still low. Fat was still where it should be. Protein was right where it should be. Only difference is I was drinking water with these water enhancers all day long. Only difference. I stopped drinking the water with water enhancers. Bam, weight loss starts back again. Just that one thing. So what happens is, in that instance, is I would drink water all day because I like to drink a lot of water. So, I'm drinking 4, 5, 6 bottles of water a day. And they all have water enhancers in them, which means I'm constantly putting something in my body that is causing insulin spikes because it tastes sweet. My body thinks it's sugar. It sends a little insulin out there. And so it's just enough that it keeps you out of fat burning mode. On top of that, it brings the cravings. When I was in that drinking water enhancers all the time mode that I was in, and I did that for a while, my sugar cravings were always up there. I was always craving sugar, man. It was so bad. So, these are things you look at. Hidden carbs you don't think you're eating. There's some carbs hiding in there somewhere. You've gotten lax. You've gotten lazy. Maybe you've quit tracking because you basically eat the same thing all the time. But the 1 or 2 things that you didn't normally eat before when you were tracking that you've now moved into your diet, they have carbs that you aren't thinking about. So if you've stopped tracking, you need to get back tracking again. That'd be step 1. Get back tracking again. Step 2 would be, these processed carb type things that are, they're gourmets, but they are gourmet keto things, whether it be a keto cookie or a keto protein bar or some kind of keto drink or, all this stuff they sell with the word keto in it. It says on the label it's this or whatever, but, is it a coincidence that when you started trying that, now your weight loss is stalled? I would submit to you it's not. You got to get back to purity. As close as you can be to purity all the time is where you need to be with keto. And that's basically a meat and vegetable diet. That's what that is. Meat, vegetable, and egg with some cheese occasionally. Make sure it's 0 carb cheese. That's a ketogenic diet in a nutshell. So we add things to it to keep our life from getting boring, but we add them in occasionally. And when they become staples, bad things happen. We'll go off the rails. So that would be my suggestion for things to look at. I hope this has helped you if you've experienced a weight loss stall. If you haven't experienced one yet, you will. I've lost over 125 pounds, and I've had weight loss stalls that lasted 6 weeks. I've had many that lasted 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. They come. And, I don't stress about why I didn't lose weight. Only thing I look at is the diet pure? Is the diet, am I eating right? And if you will hunker down and make sure that what goes to your mouth part is right, the weight loss part will fix itself. So if it's a natural stall and you're comfortable waiting, which I am most of the time, I'll wait 2 or 3 weeks. It's fine. I won't freak out about it. If we're hitting a set point, I'll just roll with it. My body's doing what it needs to do. And then, maybe week 3, the weight loss will start again or whatever. That's fine. But after that, if it doesn't come and I start worrying about it, then I'll really not, dial in the diet, make sure I'm good on that and I'm not screwing up. And if that all still looks good, then I'll move on to, one of those things to kick the metabolism in gear, whether it be the overfeeding for a day and a half or whether it be the fasted followed by a short overeating day. All right, guys, check us out on social media. Hit the share button. You never know who you might help. And don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform, whether it be iTunes or Google Play or whatever. I think we're still on Stitcher and et cetera, et cetera. And leave us a review. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcast. 5 stars and a quick description about why you like the show and how it's helped you. Would you just don't know whose life that'll change, because it'll cause Apple to share us and show us with more people, and more people will hear the message and will change more lives. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you next time.